Take a look at this. This has to be sent out on the 10th of April. Decent PC, beautiful configuration, sold for 224 euros. And this also has to be sent out on the 10th of April. Beautiful PC it is, sold for 217 euros. So if you are still sitting down there and thinking that flipping PC is dead, you better have to think again. Yes, you sell some and you also receive returns in the process. This is a return. I'm going to go ahead and process it as soon as possible. The last time I received a return, I forgot to refund the buyer. It took me like 2 days to remember, and that's not good enough. But for this particular one, I'm going to go ahead, send the refund, and I know that the transaction is closed. All right, guys, there's definitely a setting I need, to immediately review on my shop. The problem is this item here is just a 10 euro item that was sent out to a buyer. Buyer doesn't want it, and each time a customer initiates a return on my shop, I have the setting where the return is automatically accepted and the customer actually receives, the return label. For a 10 euro item, this becomes a little problem. You see, if it's a PC, an expensive item, this is actually not an issue. But for a 10 euro item, a buyer initiates a return, gets a return label that costs 7 euros to send it back to me, I definitely need to review this setting. This is a setting I actually activated a long time ago because I was tired of kind of forgetting, not really forget, because sometimes you just get so busy that you do not have time to coordinate all the return requests you have. And sometimes if you are not careful, some slips under the carpet and it becomes a defect for you on your eBay shop. I didn't want this and I went ahead, set up the auto accept, and it's not really the best thing for me right now. As you can see in this transaction, I should have regularized these things. I'm going to check. I'm not so sure there's a setting that makes it possible for me to, select the items that will receive, the expensive return labels. And for the cheap items, sometimes I want to decide if I even want the item back. For this particular transaction, if I had done my due diligence, perhaps there was no need for the buyer to send back the item. I would have just gone ahead, to issue a refund to the buyer. In this case, I do not have to lose again, the shipping cost. This is one of those leakages I am talking about. Guys, if you have a business, one thing you want to watch out for, you have to watch out for those leakage points. It could be in the form of you just buying too much shipping materials. It could be in the form of you buying the wrong items. Every little money you spend on buying the wrong item is a leakage to your business. And if you also have this kind of leakage that I do have, which is getting items returned to you with a very, very expensive return label, this is a leakage point, and I'm definitely going to correct that as soon as possible. This is an item I received, and sometimes you just but wonder why somebody will go ahead to seal a package like this. You see, this is a package. You have absolutely no possibility to open it. Everywhere is sealed. And sometimes if you are not careful while using a knife to open this, you can actually hurt yourself. And if you are not even careful, you can actually destroy the item within the package. I don't know who does a thing like this. Guys, please, when you send items to us, please, yes, it's enough for you to just use one tape to close it. It doesn't have to be like this, like you are trying to prevent the item from being stolen or what. I don't get it. Please, you can actually do better. Yes, sometimes it doesn't just work like I expect. Ideally, I should just come around, click on this, and it's going to come out. But for one reason or the other, this thing appears to be defective. And definitely, I have to, get a new one. This thing has been with me for a very, very long time. You have no idea. If I want to guess, I think I've been using this since 2019. And right now is it time for you to actually say, I don't want to work anymore. And unfortunately, I have to get a new one as soon as possible. All right. Wow, this is not good enough. Seller could have done something better. Okay, last week we flipped a lot of computers, and from these PCs came out certain things like a graphic card, this right here, and some SSDs. This is a particularly very good one. This SSD, if you know, this is a Samsung SSD. Even though it's a little bit older, but it still flips very well for profit. And this right here, I'm not so sure of the product, Light On Incorporated. It's a 128 gigabyte SSD, possibly going to be flipped for profit. And this also is a VGA adapter. I actually did have two of these. You can see right here, and this is another SSD right here. We are actually going to go ahead and even flip this further to make more profit. Today has been one very chaotic day. I really do know that a lot of you can relate to this problem. You drive your car from point A to point B. Point B, in this case, being a supermarket, you just want to grab something to eat because you are hungry, and then you buy this thing, you come back to your car, try to start your car, and the car refused to start. This was exactly what happened to me today. It broke my day, literally broke everything I had planned today. I had no idea that my battery was failing. Yes, you might call it being naive. I am not a car person, and for one reason or the other, this is a battery I have been using for well over 5 years. I came to the car today, wanted to start the car, and the car just refused to start. I did everything that was humanly possible. Car said, today, I don't want to start. I just want to stay here. I am not going to even respond to you trying to start me over and over and over and again. This is what happened. It broke my day, broke my plans. What I actually needed to do was to look for a mechanic workshop not so far from me. Of course, nobody's expecting this. I had to actually, plead with them. Guys, I have a little problem. My car is refusing to start, and I do know that it's the battery. Could you please help me with there's this little, device that you can actually use to start a failing battery. Long story short, I did get this from the mechanic workshop, and I had to start the battery. I knew that, look, if a battery is failing, there's just nothing you can do about it. The best thing you have to do is to go ahead and buy a new battery, which I did do. It was unplanned for, but luckily for me, I was able to get a new battery. I was able to buy this battery and also get it installed almost immediately. From nowhere, a cost I didn't actually reckon with, 262 euros, flew out of my pocket, like literally just, I saw it flying away under 1 hour. But then I wasn't so disappointed because it could have been worse. It could have been a situation where the battery, in this case, a 12-volt battery, is not available in the shop, or you have bought the battery and there's actually nobody to actually do the installation. I must really say a very big thank you to the mechanic workshop. The young guy was so professional, explained to me, because my car does have this, start and stop function. And because of that, I needed to get a very good battery with 5 years guarantee. And he said to me, look, I am going to get this battery fixed in less than 15 minutes. And true to his words, this car went in, new battery was fixed, and in 15 minutes, I was out. But at this time, it was already about 15 o'clock. I pretty much couldn't do anything. But luckily for me, I had already shipped out items for the day. So there wasn't going to be, any delayed shipping. But the only thing that was affected is that my listing goals for today was actually destroyed. I couldn't really do it. So what that means is that tomorrow, I'm just going to make sure I do double the amount of items I should have listed. In this case, I can still catch up with my listing goals, because the idea is, if you are not listing items, the platform on which you sell pretty much thinks that you are no longer active. And in this case, if you're not careful, you might have a situation where your items are not being showed up in the search ranking. And when that happens, your sales will just begin to drop. And this is not what we want. We want to list as much items as we can so that we can continue flipping these items to actually make profit. All right, this is something I still can do today. Yes, sometimes you just have this kind of unplanned situations. Now the day is far gone, listing is not done, but I actually can prepare these items, perhaps for tomorrow. This is an SSD, like I was saying. This SSD, if you ever get to find it, please buy it. Forget the fact that it's a little bit on the older side. I'm just going to get the right screwdriver for this. Give me 1 minute. This is one of the best-selling, SSD models right now. If you see it in the 128 gigabyte capacity, go ahead and buy it. Don't even try to think it over, because it's an item that is definitely going to sell. But the problem is, guys, we have a problem. These screws are so tight that some of them are even worn out. It's just not possible for me to open all of them. But luckily, one is out. I wouldn't know how far I can go. I'm still going to try to take this out. All right, that is out. Yes, if these screws are destroyed for one reason or the other, it's going to be super, super difficult, to get this SSD out. I wouldn't want to break this, because this is a very good SSD adapter, which I can still use for another PC. So I really do hope that this is not going to be so difficult like I can imagine. But this is already worn out. Unfortunately, this is not going to go out, but I still can do something, which is to get a rag just like that and try to see if I can actually use this rag to hold this screwdriver. Then I kind of have a better grip on this stuff. No, it's broken, and this is going to be a new kind of problem. The head of the screw is worn out, and there's just nothing that can actually go in there to, to unturn the screw. This is a new problem, but anyhow, I have to get this out. Otherwise, this whole thing here is going to be broken. It's a 130 gigabyte SSD, and I wouldn't want to destroy any of these things. Just going to try the second one. Yes, you have something like this happening sometimes, and when they do happen, you don't have to panic. This is what it is. you just have to see how you can actually, solve the problem. This is actually going out very easily. That's out. And the other one, I think the mistake I made was to have used this one in the first place. This wasn't so good enough. This would have been the right size, but it's just too late now. All right, this is out. This is out. Okay. And this is also out. All right. So ideally, this is what it should have looked like. That's the SSD holder, and that's the SSD right there. All right. Everything looking super clean. But this now, I really do not know how to get this out, but definitely there is just going to be a way, because I'm not going to leave this here. I'm going to see what I can do about that. Of course, these are VGA adapters. Just going to go ahead and make pictures of this. They actually look in a very, very good condition. I wouldn't know what these will sell for, but I really do not think that there should be a lot of money to be made here. But it doesn't matter how little it is. Like I always say on this channel, it doesn't matter how small the item is. The idea is you shouldn't allow things just sit around on the table, not doing something. Even though it's going to sell for 10 euros, and if you combine the two together, possibly sell for 20 euros. I pretty much got it for free, so I do not have anything to lose, by just listing them. And this is actually, a graphic card. I still have to check to be sure the exact model, but then I can actually take a look on eBay itself, and whatever I find, I'm just going to go ahead and reduce the price so that I can actually sell it for cheap. This is actually in very good working condition, pulled out of a working PC, so I have absolutely no fear that it's going to, work perfectly. And this actually, a light-on SSD, like I said, 128 GB, looks very, very interesting. But this is typical of HP PCs. This is the, the SSD holder on the PC. So I just have to take that out because I do not want to sell this SSD with this. So once again, I have to get my screwdriver and then just take it out like that. So stuff like this, I always like to keep them in the warehouse because there's definitely going to be a time where I have to, upgrade an SSD or whatever, or a HDD on a HP PC, and then things like this, they're just going to come in handy. Stuff like this, I also do not want to sell them because, first of all, they are actually very, very small items, and I want to believe that items like this shouldn't cost more than 6 euros. It's going to be a very difficult game to play. For 6 euros, you have to ship it out. And if the buyer decides not to have it, then you also have to pay money. It's just not my game. So for this item, I'm just going to keep them for as long as possible in the warehouse. One way or the other, I'm going to get a PC that would definitely need that. This is also very beautiful. And these are the things I can actually go ahead to do right now. Guys, it is what it is. There are some days you do not really plan for events that happen. But whenever it happens, you do not have to now sit down and begin to mourn, begin to complain, why are all these things happening? Why is this day not going like I planned? Today, I did plan that it's going to be, a day where I come to the warehouse, finish the pieces I have to ship out, take them to the post office, and then come back and still do a lot of productive work. But because the car just kind of messed up the whole plan, it is what it is. It's going to happen like this sometimes. On your road to success, a lot of events might happen that you might think these are unpalatable events. These are events that want to make you give up. Guys, I want to tell you from my own experience, do not give up. You have to be able to actually weather the storm as soon as they come. And when your day is not going like you've planned, it's just a time for you to sit back and say, you know what? I am going to take a rest today. I'm not going to sweat it. I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to make sure I do whatever I can do and leave the rest for tomorrow. And this is exactly what I am going to be doing right now. I'm just not in the psychological frame of mind to actually go ahead and list today. Otherwise, I could still push myself to try to list 1 or 2 items. But this actually is a better thing to do, which is prepare the photographs for these ones and try to force the SSD out of this SSD holder. Hopefully, I can without destroying anything. And then call it a day. Tomorrow, we're going to be back again, full of energy, new motivation to face the task of the day. See, these 2 pieces have been flipped. Even though I have to ship them out on the 10th of April, I will actually have to do them tomorrow, which is prepare them, test them once again, make sure they are ready for their new homes, and ensure that on the 10th of April, when I come around, I'm just going to go into action and ship them out without any problem. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please be subscribed, because tomorrow I'm going to show you behind the scene of how these PCs would actually be set up and thereafter sent out to the buyer. Until I see you again in the next one, keep flipping PCs for profit. Peace.